The Halifax real estate market, is it really a good time to sell right now given the current conditions? Let's find out. So Don, thank you for coming all the way here today. You didn't get lost or anything?
No, we made it out of the country today for
you.
Yeah,
good stuff. So, there's a lot of stuff happening here in the Halifax real estate market. Do you think it's a good time now for sellers to be listing?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and what I'd say to that is...
So let's preface this first, I know all my questions are going to be good.
Okay, so I'll just cut to the chase on that, Sandra. So right now, the spring market, I feel kind of made its emergence actually end of February.
Yep.
And that's where we are right now, right? We're shooting this right now in March. Spring market just kind of came in tail end of February. Mm-hmm. And what I think that I'm seeing with the clientele that I'm working with is, traditionally spring markets bring those buyers, right? That have been waiting to see if the time is right. And external factors, Bank of Canada just announced, right?
Yep.
The overnight rate dropped to 2.75 today. I know folks who've been chatting to me about that. That's good news for them. Still waiting to see how the bond market is going to impact fixed term mortgages, of course. But, there's been some external factors people are paying attention to that is impacting right now why it is in fact a good time to list your home.
Yep. So do you see a difference, let's say, for how long homes are taking or, how long they're being on the market?
Yes is the short answer. I think that, my kind of catchphrase there is this: if a home is priced accurately, marketed professionally, and there is a good listing and marketing plan behind that, it's going to sell. And that's what I'll say to you on that is I think that in certain areas it's taking longer. Obviously price points play a huge factor in that. There's kind of three, at least in my area, there's three kind of sub-markets. It's really 550 to 600 and under as one, 6 to kind of 850 as another, and 850 and above. And I'm kind of seeing those three demographics play out different things.
And you talk about, playing out different things. I listed a house in Bedford, Old Bedford, an older house that needed work. So I'm listing it at $499 because I know other houses on the street are selling, upwards of $700.
Right.
And so I'm thinking, well, I know I'm not worth that, so we'll go at $499 because we need work. I had two offers at $450, and I had another offer at $430. What would you tell your seller in that case? So
I haven't been in the home first, right? But I mean...
Well, no, it's dated. I mean,
yeah.
Good bones,
yeah.
right? It just
so
dated.
What I would probably tell that seller is I'd say, I think there would be a conversation that hopefully I would have had as a precursor to before listing, which is this: buyers are savvy, right? They are. They're pretty well informed for the most part. They've got marketplace data. They've got realtors guiding them. And, I think that COVID, and I don't want to talk about it because it feels like it's forever ago, but it's not in terms of perception and how that's guided some buyers right now that we're seeing in the marketplace, and sellers too. It's that time frame is done, and listing it at $499, there's search algorithms that we need to be under. There's data analytics behind this that makes sense to do these things, right? To capture the biggest demographic of buyers. And I as part of that discussion up front for a seller to say, hey, listen, this is where we need to hold at. The value is there.
Yep.
It is. There are lots of things in the street that are going to support that. We had almost 20,000 people move to Nova Scotia last year, just from immigration alone, right? We know that after those trends happen, 24 months out, they're typically looking to buy. If it's priced well, like I said, marketed well, it's going to sell.
Oh, I know. And oddly enough, I had one home listed at $649 and another listed at $699 and listed at the same time. And I got Friday I had three offers. And three different sellers. Yeah. So I was shocked to see how the lowballs were coming in. And, it is a conversation to have with sellers. It's either A, the buyer's expectation is just totally different, or B, that the buying agent is not really setting the stage for the buyer. So, because I knew, I've sold over 800 homes.
Yeah.
I study the market. Well, you know what I'm like.
I sure do.
And so I know. And, I'm very stat driven. So, having said that, is there, should sellers be looking at price strategies right now to list below market, to get multiple offers?
Again, I think it's regionally dependent, but I'm going to give you an answer that's kind of all-encompassing in terms of how I give advice right now. What I say to most folks is, and again, going back to COVID, because we know what those days were like, you could list a property under fair market value and expect that there'd be multiple offer scenarios. But the conversation that I've been having for probably the last 8 months, Sandra, is if we list your property, all right, let's say that fair market value is 500, okay?
Yep.
And we list your property at 425. If we don't get an offer at 500 and nothing goes above 500, I'm gonna have to put your price up to 500 where it should have been all along. And in my opinion, I've now deleveraged our negotiating position because some buyer out there is gonna say, hey, you never got an offer or an offer that you liked enough to take it when it was listed at 425. Why am I ever gonna come in at full asking?
Absolutely, and I do see agents still doing that, and I don't get it. So, we were talking about over asking. So year to date, 66% of the inventory that's being listed is being sold. So right now,
2/3,
January to February, we've only had 478 homes sell. Out of the 478 homes, we had only 58% that would have sold over, I'm lying to you right now. There was 143 homes that sold over asking year to date. Like, that's it. And the average over date was around 50,000. But that also includes new construction. It's just hard to take those numbers out.
Yep.
And then, you have 61% of what's being listed is going below ask for around 37,000.
Right.
So that brings me to Mr. Lohr.
Sure.
Right. Part of the reasoning for the, de-transfer tax of an extra 10%.
Yeah, going from 5 to 10. Yeah.
Was to, give Nova Scotians an advantage. Well, Mr. Lohr, with 61% of the market selling under asking, what advantage are you actually giving?
That's a legitimately very good question to ask.
Yeah. I don't, I just find that our government is just out of touch.
Yep, 100%. It's funny, as you mentioned this, I put something out to my clients, and it was a question actually. So when it was announced within the budget, I shot just a quick video email out to some clients that I had, and I said, kind of want to know what your thoughts are, and I'll kind of recapitulate what that was. So, and I'm sure my story is not different from other agents, or even somebody that you might have in your clientele. I have an out-of-province client with kids who go to school here at Dal.
Yep.
And the game plan was, hey, you guys pay for your own education, we're going to help you buy a house after. And because housing, it's generationally challenging right now for someone to break in the market.
Oh, it's difficult. And you know what? If I have a kid, my kid now moves to Ontario, and that's where he stays.
Yep.
I pass away, and I give Johnny Willem my house. And Johnny's only going to come here because I'm moving out to Lunenburg. Johnny's only going to come here maybe during the summer months. Johnny has to pay the 10% de-transfer tax, and he is a Nova Scotian.
That's it.
That makes no sense to me. I think it's a government soundbite, truth be told.
Well, sure, right? Because they're doing other things to try to, they got to make up for it. They've communicated where they're going to pull money away from in other areas, so they're going to make it up, obviously, in other areas. But I just think that it goes against the spirit of the intent behind it.
Yes, I agree.
Which is, as you already communicated, it's to give Nova Scotians an advantage. And I don't see how this policy is impacting anything that's going to give a net positive result to any Nova Scotian.
No, I agree. So if you were to look at sellers that you're working with now, are there any mistakes that they've been making in our market?
I think that one of the challenges that I've experienced with sellers in the last, I'll say 6 to 12 months, is again, expectation management. That's the first thing.
So explain that.
Sure. So expectation management, the way I see it, is it's not just my job to sell your home, but to communicate what expectations you should have, not just from me and my team, but about the market and throughout the entire process.
Yep.
So when I say that, and what I'm explaining really is, I'm being very forthright and upfront about what I think will happen and what can happen and how we can react to that. So that when it comes, we're not facing down a new thing. We've already talked about this, right? So specifically, pricing is going to be something that I feel that I have a conversation about. one of the first questions that I ask when I'm in someone's home is, hey, what do you think it's worth? And sometimes they'll say, I don't want to tell you until you tell me.
Yes, I get that all the time.
Right? And I say, fair enough, fair enough. But I ask that question because I'm trying to do my own expectation management of, okay, are these folks watching the market? If they throw a number at me that I know is comparable to recently sold listings, then okay, great, we can have a conversation. Or hey, maybe I need to do a bit of work here and communicate some things to help kind of bring them to an area where I think we're going to be selling the property at. So price is going to be one, and then two is really I've already said it a couple times, but marketing the property, and I don't just mean like putting a for sale sign on the lawn and walking away, Sandra. That's not what I mean by marketing. It's a comprehensive thing, right? There's levels to it, and that means how the home shows. We need to invoke a connection for a potential buyer in that home space.
Yep.
So, it sounds cliche, but the decluttering, the staging, repainting if we need to.
Moose heads on the wall.
Yeah, shout out to Ben. Yeah, that's right. Love it.
Yeah. No, I see that as well.
Yeah.
And, I always have a conversation with sellers up front. We talk about feedback, what we get, or if we even get it.
If we even get it, oh my gosh, that's a whole conversation.
Absolutely. And but I would say some of what I've seen is, sellers, you can't depend on that if you need an amount of money for retirement, or if you need an amount of money to purchase another house.
Sure.
It's only what the market is willing to give you. And regardless of what price you or I, put on it, it's what the market's willing to pay.
100%. That's such a simplistic way of communicating a super effective point, which is a thing is only worth something if someone's willing to pay it. And the market tells us that.
Yeah. And I don't think prices are dropping.
No, I don't agree. No,
I don't see price, but prices, I believe, are more realistic these days.
Yeah, 100%. And even with the inventory that we have on the market, that's what I'm seeing too. Yeah.
I love this type of market now because I'm back to normal market where, I've worked in, 18 months of inventory. And now, like the average house, I think is about 46 days on market.
Yep, something about there,
And then, but some houses could take 6 months to sell.
Yep.
Some houses could take a year to sell.
And that's there's no cookie cutter approach to anything on this.
No.
It's like you have to be so regionally and price specific. Like, when you walk into a home and it's like, okay, there's certain attributes about this that make it unique, right?
Absolutely.
The buyer demographic is just not as potentially large as something else. And it's just being so forthright about it, but in a way that also engenders confidence from the seller. It's like, hey, I'm still going to do this for you, but we need to be prepared so we can position ourselves to be the most effective that we can be when we hit the market.
I totally agree. So when you're seeing, offers on properties or, whether you being the buy or in the listing side, what are buyers expecting from sellers now in a home inspection?
The way I kind of counsel and I'll give advice to the buyers that I work with is I say, okay, if the GFCI is not grounded properly by the kitchen sink, and I'm not being flippant here, I'm not going to say I don't care, but I'm going to get it sorted out for you. We're not going to go after that.
Yep.
Structural, safety, and lifespan. Those are the three kind of pillars that I communicate to buyers. And what I mean by that is this. Safety. If something is unsafe for you, your kids, your family, we are going to talk about that after the home inspection to the sellers, and we're going to communicate our concerns and try and establish a negotiation where it's going to be in the favor, obviously, of us on the buyer side. So that's safety. Secondly is lifespan. So if you're dealing with a rural property, for example, and the septic is shot, well, it's reasonable in our current marketplace right now to say to the sellers, hey, we're not going to be able to get financing on this unless you pony up and get a new septic.
But I'm not going to give you a new septic. I'll give you some money towards it.
And hey, as a listing agent, you're going to say that 100%, and I respect that. And as a buyer's agent, I'm going to say, okay, I'll do my research and find 3 others down the road that had the same issues in the last 2 years, and call those agents to see what they did. Yeah, but and then the third one was going to be, so we said lifespan of things, safety, and then structural.
Yep.
Right. If we have structural issues, decks, foundations, for sure we're going to talk about that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's a good thing. And the other thing, have you seen, during, COVID, we would have had closings in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Have you seen that change?
I've seen the pendulum shift actually.
Yep.
Almost to the opposite extreme. So the last probably 4 homes that I have sold or am getting ready to sell, the communication is we're looking for closings 90 days out.
Yep.
For 2 of those homes, it's because they want to purchase something else, which, going back to those 3 sub-demographics of buyers I'm talking about, a lot of folks in that 600 to 800 market, I'll call them the 35-year-olds to 45-year-olds, who had a home prior to COVID, they have equity, now they're trying to level up, they're going to sell, they're going to level up. So now they're trying to break into that almost $1 million market, right? Again, that is, hey, it might take X amount of time to sell this. And so we're going to communicate up front, this is our ideal closing, because I need time to find you a home.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's really shifted in the opposite direction, I find, is actually more time. And that's a concern that sellers have. And I say, hey, this is how we can attack this problem and solve it up front. And we're going to make sure that when the buyers come to us, we've communicated that up front.
Oh, no. Oh, every time I'm with a client, seller,
Yeah.
when would you like your closing to be? And I write that right on the listing cut
yeah.
because I don't want to waste
Yeah.
a buyer's time.
100%.
And I definitely don't want to put that onto my, seller just to have
Yeah.
people coming in through the house who want a 30-day closing when we can't do it.
To your point, one of the questions I had from a seller recently was, okay, so if we sell my house, Dawn, do I need to go find an Airbnb for the next 3 months? Well, I said, no. We can sell your home and get a closing date that's going to work for you. And she was like,
Yeah.
really? I said, yeah. And we did.
Yeah,
We absolutely did.
do it all. I think
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah.
So where do you see our market? Here we are, March. Where do you see our market by September?
I see our market sitting in a place probably, I think, similar to where we actually are right now. I don't expect, the only thing that I think can impact where the market's going to go is going to be external factors, obviously, right? Trade being a big one, albeit I think Nova Scotia won't be impacted as much as other provinces. I think that we're going to kind of remain with an available inventory on average probably around 2 to 2.5 months, I think. And I think that it's going to be more of like this balanced, maybe trending toward a balanced market. But again, Bank of Canada just dropped the overnight rate. Bond markets are going to play an impact on fixed term mortgages. But I think what I'm seeing is consumer confidence on the buying side come back a bit.
Yep.
Bank of Canada shot it up 10 times. You know what I mean? In a year. So now that all of that kind of energy is shifting, the conversations that my team's having with buyers is, hey, this is, and I'll use a personal example. I bought a cottage, not actually kind of close to you, about by Mallega Lake 2 years ago, 2023. You want to know what my interest rate was on that when I bought it?
6.
September of 23. You are darn close, 5.8.
Yeah.
Right. And now I'm sitting talking to folks saying, hey, did you know that in the first year of my mortgage on that, I paid X amount of dollars just in interest alone? Don't worry about that. This is where we are today. Interest rates are what now? 4.15, 4.10 you can get, and probably soon to be under 4. I feel like that's going to be the tipping point. Once we have fixed terms.
Oh, when we're under 4?
Yeah.
Because in 2016, 2017, that's when our mortgage rates were around there.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, we were still in 18 months of inventory because there was like 7,000 houses.
Right. Yeah.
It was just crazy.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. Pushing out 6 months from now, there'll be external factors that kind of are hard to predict where it'll shape things. But I think we're in a good place for sellers to sell and buyers to buy. I do. I
agree. And, go get a variable mortgage.
Yeah, 100%.
The more, our neighbor to the south, talks about his tariffs and et cetera. I wrote an article back in November because back then it was only 10% tariffs. And, Bank of Canada was saying then, well, if that happens, you need to promote consumer confidence.
Yep.
So they would reduce rates.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's what happened.
That's exactly it, right?
So I don't think our market is crazy. And I hate when real estate agents say, oh, I'm so busy, or the house sold and this, and because that's just an oddity. Like, it's not every house that's selling over asking. And again, right? And it's still a good time. And I say to my clients, patience grasshopper. I don't know. See, I'm just old. That's why I know that.
No, you know, as
Come
you're
on,
saying
no,
this,
I gotta go. Do you know that reference? I gotta ask you, or I'm just really, you never, Patience Grasshopper?
that's that out of the Karate Kid? Was
Yeah,
it?
okay,
I got you. I'm an 86 child, okay? I'm not too. We're good, Sandra. We're okay? Like I didn't say wax on, wax off. I know that too, but I got you. Yeah.
I was 16 years old. Look, I am getting my Shoppers Drug Mart discount this year.
Listen, and I hope to see you with the blood pressure cuff on when I'm in there doing your thing.
I got one over there.
But to your point though about
Yep.
you know where things are going to go with pricing. In my neighborhood, in my subdivision specifically, there was a house that was listed, and I thought, my gosh, just way overpriced, 140,000 higher than the last sale 2 years ago. Big number, and it sold within $3,000 of the list price. And I called the agent, and I said, number one, great job. Number two, what the heck happened? How did that happen? And they explained to me that, you know, it was just a perfect storm. Buyer had sold their property in Newfoundland, had less than 30 days to find a property. This was the area they needed to be for work. One house on the market, bing, bang, boom, got to get it done. Now, the phone calls I got after that house sold from people excited to sell, saying, holy smokes, if they got this, my house
Doesn't mean
must
they're
be
gonna
worth.
get it.
So, I had a conversation with somebody, and we listed the house across the road and down a bit. At a number, I said, maybe we can push that number next year, but right now in the fall, I don't think we're going to get it. Sure enough, you know, we didn't get it. We're going to list now at the same number, and my confidence in terms of how it's going to go is absolutely, you know, a big paradigm shift from where that number is going to be, and we're going to do well, and I'm very confident of that now. Yeah, because of the market, right? It's shifting.
So shifting like that, you can list higher?
Yep,
I don't agree.
that's fine.
And the reason I don't agree is because it's just how the buyer is now, especially sub 7.
Right. So this listing specifically listed, I think, at 789, sold for 786. The house next door to it just listed 797, got 795, and now we're going to be going back on at 725. So that's why again that's just
that's
over 4 months.
reasonable.
Yeah, that's reasonable. Yeah.
But again, you know, this property on Basinview,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A house like just up the street sold for $655, $679. I'm $499.
Yeah.
And
you're getting
offers for
low balls. Yeah.
$430. So I was so surprised to see that.
You used a word a minute ago, oddities, and that's what these are. I think that sometimes you get these exceptions that are not the rule, and that's part of the conversation sometimes we gotta have.
You have to have constant communication.
100%, and say you don't, because you're right there with your client, right? Like you're invested with them too on this, like on this journey, right? You want them to do well, right? Especially as a listing agent, right? So yeah.
Well, thanks for driving all the way here today.
It's 28 minutes. It's not that far. I've seen your sign in my neighborhood, so I know it ain't far. It's all this way. Happy to do it, Sandra. Happy to do it.
Thanks for coming out.
No problem. Thank you.